Caleb Sokovich from Maranatha Baptist Academy, and today I'll be presenting a speech by Ronald Reagan commemorating the 40th anniversary of D-Day. We are here to mark that day in history when the Allied armies joined in battle to reclaim this continent to liberty. For 4 long years, much of Europe was enslaved under a terrible shadow. Free nations had fallen. Jews cried out in the camps, and millions cried out for liberation. Europe was enslaved, and the world prayed for its rescue. Here, in Normandy, that rescue began. Here the Allies stood and fought against tyranny in a giant undertaking unparalleled in human history. We stand on a lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. The air is soft, but 40 years ago at this moment, the air was filled with the cries of men and smoke, and the crack of rifle fire and the roar of cannon. At dawn, on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 American Rangers jumped off of the British landing crafts and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. Their mission was one of the most difficult and daring of the invasion: to climb these sheer and desolate cliffs and take out the enemy guns. The Allies had been told that some of the mightiest of these weapons were here, and that they would be trained in the beaches to stop the Allied advance. The Allies looked up and saw the enemy soldiers at the edge of these cliffs, shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades. And the American Rangers began to climb. They shot rope ladders over the face of these cliffs and began to pull themselves up. When one Ranger fell, another would take his place. When one rope was cut, a Ranger would grab another and begin his climb again. They climbed, shot back, and held their footing. Soon, one by one, the Rangers began to pull themselves over the top, and in seizing the firm land atop of this ground, they began to seize back the continent of Europe. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. And behind me is a memorial that symbolizes the Ranger daggers that were thrust into the top of these cliffs. And before me are the men who put them there. These are the boys of Pointe du Hoc. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the heroes who helped free a continent, and these are the champions who helped end a war. Gentlemen, I look at you and I think of the words of Stephen Spender's poem. You are the men who in your lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with your honor. 40 summers have passed since the battle you fought here. You were young the day you took these cliffs. Some of you hardly more than boys, with the deepest joys of life before you. Yet you risked everything here. Why? Why did you do it? What impelled you to put aside the instinct of self-preservation and risk your lives to take these cliffs? What inspired all of the men of the battles that fought here that morning? We look at you, and somehow we know the answer. It was faith and belief. It was loyalty and love. The men of Normandy had faith that what they were doing was right. Faith that they fought for all humanity. Faith that a just God would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. It was the deep knowledge, and pray God we have not lost it, that there is a profound moral difference between the use of force for liberation and the use of force for conquest. You were here to liberate, not to conquer. And so you and those others did not doubt your cause. And you were right not to doubt. You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for, because it is the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. All of you love liberty. All of you were willing to give your lives to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you. The Americans who fought here that morning knew word of the invasion was spreading through the darkness back home. They fought, or felt in their hearts, although they could not know in fact, that in Georgia, they were filling the churches at 4 a.m. And in Kansas, they were kneeling on their porches praying. And in Philadelphia, they were ringing the Liberty Bell. Something else helped the men of D-Day. A rock-hard belief that Providence would have a great hand in the events that would unfold here. That God was an ally in this great cause. And so, on the night of the invasion, when Colonel Wolverton asked his parachute troops to kneel with him in prayer, he said to them, "Do not bow your heads, but look up so you can see God and ask His blessing on what we're about to do." Also that night, General Matthew Ridgway, on his cot, listening in the darkness for the promise God made to Joshua. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. These are the things that impelled them. These are the things that shaped the unity of the Allies. We in America have learned bitter lessons from 2 world wars. It is better to be here, ready to protect the peace, than to take blind shelter across the sea, rushing to respond only after freedom is lost. We've learned that isolationism never was and never will be an acceptable response to tyrannical governments with an expansionist intent. But we try always to be prepared for peace, prepared to deter aggression, prepared to negotiate the reduction of arms, and yes, prepared to reach out again in the same spirit of reconciliation. In truth, there is no reconciliation we would welcome more than a reconciliation with the Soviet Union, so together we can lessen the risk of war now and forever. It is fitting here to remember the great losses also suffered by the Russian people during World War II. 20 million perished, a terrible price that testifies to all the world the necessity of ending war. I tell you from my heart that we in America do not want war. We want to wipe from the face of the earth the terrible weapons that man now has in his hands. I tell you, we are ready to seize that beachhead. We look for some sign from the Soviet Union that they are willing to move forward, that they share our love and desire for change, that they will give up the ways of conquest. There must be a changing there that will allow us to turn our hope into action. We pray forever that someday that changing will come, but for now, particularly today, it is good and fitting to renew our commitment to each other, to our freedoms, and to the alliance that protects it. We're bound by the same thing that bound us 40 years ago, the same freedoms, loyalties, and beliefs. We are bound by reality. The strength of America's allies is vital to the United States, and the American security guarantee is essential to the continued freedom of Europe's democracies. We were with you then, we are with you now. Your freedoms are our freedoms, and your destiny is our destiny. Here in this place where the West held together, let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Let our actions say to them the words for which Matthew Ridgway listened: I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Strengthened by their courage, and heartened by their valor, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.